Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. Welcome back to Real Men Real Talk Live. If you missed last week's episode 149, here's a short clip. Enjoy.
At the world after my startup crashed, and I was a bitter person. I hated a lot of things and the world at that time, and I guarantee you that no opportunities were coming my way with that energy that I was putting out there. Sometimes you have to. So for the first year that I lived in LA, I had an alarm clock that you could put a CD in, and it would start up at your alarm to the certain track. And I had Eminem, the song, this one shot, your one opportunity. I played that every morning for a year as my alarm to energize myself, to charge me up, to give, I needed that little boost to be like, yes, I'm going after what I want. I know this is hard, but I'm doing it.
My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men Real Talk Live. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my co-host. We have the man of the land from down under. His name is Evis Love. Welcome back, Evis.
Ooh, looking forward to tonight's show as always, my brothers.
We have Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome back, Jeff Fasano.
Our opening song still gets me going every show.
Music for the spirit, brother.
That's right.
And we have Jay.
That song will never get tired.
And we have Jay Riddy joining us from Southern California, the Hollywood, California area. Welcome back, Jay Riddy.
Great to be with you guys. Can't wait to jam out on this one.
So as we wait for our viewers and listeners to join us this evening on episode 150, tonight's talk show is all about music feeding the soul. And I can't wait for us to kind of jump in and spend some time kind of really sharing how music has impacted each one of us in our own journeys as men and women that are joining us this evening. If you should be with us, welcome back. We appreciate your supporting our program. If you should hear something you like or love, we invite you to share it out in your community. Welcome back, viewers. In any event, Ev, you're on the top shelf tonight. Well, actually, really, why don't you set us up since you got us going with the last week's short clip. You actually mentioned music and how you listened to the same song for many, many months. You woke up to that song. Why was that? What did it do for you? And how did it change your relationship with yourself on your own healing journey?
Man, I had just moved from Denver, Colorado with a dream and a hope that I could break into entertainment here in Southern California 20 years ago. And I didn't know a soul. And I found my first job on Craigslist, and I was working for $50 a day on this movie out in Northridge. And I was having to get up at sometimes 4:30, 5 in the morning to get there, 6 a.m. call. And I wasn't used to waking up that early. I mean, I'd worked normal jobs up until that point. And so, yeah, your alarm goes off at 4:30. I was like, man, I just need something to jazz me up. And, I needed that extra power, that oomph, that energy to just get up and be like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm doing it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And I'm going to get out there and just go for it. And so, yeah, as the video said, I had that one song on loop for a year. And it was, I could still hear the opening notes as I'm like laying in bed. And it was like, and it was like, I'm like, okay, let's go. And I did. I used music to charge me up. And I'll share a little bit later, but music fell out of my life for a while, even too. And so I do know what those years were like. And that was when I was going through my huge financial crash, and I was in my head and I was trying to desperately figure a way out. And so my drive time to and from work was like my problem solved. My brain was voraciously trying to figure out this way out of this hole for me. And I did end up slowly phasing music out of my life. And I didn't realize what that was like and what I was missing until I invited music back in years later. So I've been on both sides, where I used it as a tool and an energizer and something to really, bring my personal energy up as I was charging in my day or going into a big important meeting. I'd play jam an amazing song in the car just to boost myself. And then when I was closed down and living small and inside my head and full of stress and pressure and worry and doubt and fear, it faded from my life. And those were sad moments too. So music's an important tool, a really important tool.
100, my brother. Beautiful,
curious,
beautiful. I love how you talk about, man, I love how you talk about using it for a tool straight away, I've actually got a nice tool in the background there. I'll call it more than a tool if you can't see. Brothers and sisters, there's Jeff Fasano's book, Americana, Sessions from our brother there. And it's funny because only yesterday when we were in the green mood, we were talking about doing another topic altogether. And I think when, I just happened to get a knock at the door during the meeting, and a delivery came with Jeff's book. I think it just made more than sense that we had to do a show on music, which I'm surprised, brothers, we never have. Can you believe that?
Nope.
So, I mean, music somewhere within all of our lives, it's been there for something or some part within our lives. We just think of music, and within my culture, since the dawn of time, man, we have music that we create song lines that connect our people from one side of this beautiful country to the other side of the country. These songs, this music tells our stories, and it really invokes our dreaming and our lore, LORE lore, within our particular traditional culture. Music for me personally, not only on that note, has always been a part of my life. It literally has been the background music for every part of my life. Those people closest to me know that I've always got music somewhere going within my vicinity. And whether it's here at home, it might be a nice light piano classic in the background, just that nice tune to keep a particular frequency. It could be like Josh had mentioned at the start of his intro. It could be in the gym where I'm feeling energized and I really want to pump out some weights. It could be when I want to hit the dance floor and dance like a madman around the kitchen. Music for all of us, my brothers and sisters, is a way of life for me. And it is used, I think, so more often now in our days, particularly around therapy for a lot of people, which I'm sure you're going to hear the brothers talk about tonight as well. But for me personally, I've really used it in, like I've mentioned, those other areas within my life. But at the real bottom and the root of what music does for me is it creates a certain frequency. It creates a certain vibration that allows me to flow through my life. And, whether I'm feeling down, like we always, have that downside, or whether I'm even feeling high on those vibrations, music has been there for me all the way. So really, the thing that really best describes music for me is something that, comes from someone else's soul, because it literally has touched mine.
Mm-hmm.
And when we add these beautiful lyrics that people add to the music, We are literally hearing a beautiful symphony played between souls and spirits, all as
Mhm.
one. So, man, music's a deep part of my life, brothers. I'm really excited for tonight's show. What about you, Jeff?
Mm.
This beautiful book in the background. That'd be
I
just a
know.
little speck about music for you, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? As you were talking, but I think what you just said about um, art and how art touches us. You know, music is art. So yeah, for me, it's how, you know, the melodies, whatever song's playing, but it's always about the lyrics. And as you were speaking it, I went back all the way to the first time I ever heard the Who, when I was 14 years when I was 14 years old, and the album Who's Next came out. And I remember at my friend Danny Black's house up the street on Staten Island, and his older brother Tommy came in with the record, and he took the plastic off, put it on the turntable, and I had never heard anything like that. And what that did for me that day was catapult me into wanting to hear more and more and more music. It, you know, it's one of the things in life that brings me the greatest amount of joy is music, all facets of music. You know, I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, but I started out as a rock and roller. And man, even, you know, 1977, when I was 18 years old, and one of the first things I did when I turned 18 was go to CBGB's and be a
Nice.
part, not only just listen to the music, but be a part of a scene that has never happened before. The whole punk movement, that was the second wave of it, and never looked at it as punk, but it was this music and this community for me back in 77 for about 5 years in New York City, where you knew everybody, you went all to the same clubs, and it became a community. And that's one of the things I love about artists and music, are the communities that form around it. And there's a wonderful community of people and musicians in this town. And that's where it really hits me, because, you know, I'm a big part of that community.
And you're muted, Jay.
Been there, done that before. I am curious, Jeff. When you started out in your second phase of your life, your second, let's say, your true passion for your business, and you got into photography, you initially went to LA, and you kind of broke into Hollywood, the stars, the entertainment industry, but on the acting side. And then something happened for you that brought you to Nashville. I'd like to invite you to just take a moment here to share with us. Was it the music that was the pull? Did you have to wrestle with the thought or the fears around, will I be able to transition into the music industry? Was your intention to walk away from the Hollywood side, or was it to kind of infuse both? What was your relationship, and why the move to Nashville?
Well, it all started with music back in the middle 90s when I was, you know, still working my day job. And a woman said, "Hey, what are you going to do with this photography?" I said, "I want to shoot music." And I, you know, did a record for RCA Records, but it all started out as music. It just began as music in New York City, when I got to South by Southwest in 2003 in Austin, Texas, and then wound up shooting Wilco for Paste Magazine, and that's what put me on the map. But the answer to your question, Jay, is I want to keep it with music, but I think we spoke about this last week. My journey was just to follow the path wherever it led me. And it led me from music into fashion, into celebrities, into shooting for magazines and shooting chefs. You just follow the path as doors open for you, for me on the way. That's exactly what I did. And, you know, and then I did a photo shoot with Gotham Magazine in 2003 with Terrence Howard. And that just opened a door to Hollywood. You know, music was always in there. It's just all these little doors that open up for you. You don't compartmentalize it. You know, a fashion shoot may come up, and, you know, then a shoot with a celebrity may come up, and the shoot with a chef may come up, and then the shoot with a band will come up. So you just follow that path and keep all of your doors open, because it's all going to lead to what I do is just picking up the camera and shooting incredibly interesting artists. When I was in LA, I shot a lot of music. I mean, tons of music.
Gotcha.
And then tons of actors and artists, because it was an infusion of that. Here in Nashville, I mean, I moved to Nashville because I needed a really wonderful place with community and soulfulness, which this is. And I'll go back to what I originally said. The music community here, the people in the community, which is how I relate to it, are wonderful. And it's just a wonderful community of people. You know, Nashville is, you know, it's a music town. So this is what you do here.
I want to switch gears here real quick, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that. How does music impact us emotionally, those that choose to be on some type of emotional, mental, physical, even spiritual healing journey in life? I'm curious to hear from your perspective, how is it always your friend, or can it also be your foe? And what I mean by that is that there are times that we may go back to music from our younger years, and can it be a foe? Meaning, can it trigger old memories, traumas that have some pain and have some trauma attached to that music? And if it does, can we heal our relationship with that genre, that music, or those songs that actually at one time was a very sad time in life? What can that look like? I think this is a great opportunity for us to go in there and kind of pull this and pick it apart.
Sure. I mean, I just recently found or played an old playlist on Spotify that I had from like 2018. And that was during a breakup, and it was and it's crazy when I was curious, and the first song I was like, oh wow, this is heavy, man. Like, and so I skipped it to the next one, and then listened to a little bit of the next song, and then the next, and then the next. And what I got was this picture of myself at the time, like where I was on my journey, where I was creatively, where I was within trusting and believing in myself, where I was doubting and in fear, and also not setting boundaries. And it was just it's crazy how this playlist just threw me back to this snapshot of myself. And it was fun. It was fun it's kind of like, those transparencies. I don't know if I'm dating myself now, but in school, when they had the little projector of the transparencies, it's kind of like putting two transparencies, me now with that version of me then, and going, wow, I've really changed. And so it was nice to go down memory lane and have that, juxtaposition, that contrast of where I was then and where I am now. Because we do sort of have, growth is this slow, gradual thing. We don't often get to see how big a change we've made until we are thrown or thrust back into an old version of ourselves. And that playlist did that for me a couple of days ago. And, there was no judgment. I was just like, wow, I kind of felt bad for that guy and that old version of me, and just said, I'm sure grateful I'm not there anymore.
You got it, Ritty, because right there in that moment, we can actually have empathy. You said you felt bad for that guy. It's really, for me, it's about,
I felt his pain. I didn't feel bad for him. Yeah.
right. It's, you felt
Yeah.
his pain, but you were also, in feeling his pain, it sounds to me like, if I may paraphrase you, you were able to flip it, the narrative, into, you had empathy for him. And then it led you to really, in that moment, kind of reflecting perhaps on how far you've come, how far he has come, that younger part of
Totally.
yourself. And that, for me, that usually brings me or lands me, drops you right into gratitude,
Gratitude.
right? Gratitude. I could tell you guys that if I hadn't found music at the beginning of my own healing journey, going back to 2015, I don't know I'd be alive today. It has had such a profound impact on my healing journey, and how I've used or utilized music as a very healthy tool is that when I want to connect with a part of myself that perhaps I haven't connected with, or emotions that I've stuffed or suppressed or denied or minimized for years, I kind of pick specific songs or a playlist to tap into, because I don't want to hold back my emotions and feelings anymore. I want to be able to feel what I feel freely without judgment of self or fear of judgment from others. So, like you, Josh, I've used music as this powerful tool early on in my healing journey, because up until that moment, when I was back in corporate America, I really didn't have a whole lot of music playlists going. I didn't think I had time for music. I was just living deep in, deep in the dark, in a dark world I was coming from. And through the healing journey, I found that I was able to use music to not manipulate my emotions, but allow my emotions to come up, especially around my childhood. And I just share this with you. One of the songs that absolutely hits me very differently today was, if I want to listen to music from my earliest childhood, I'll go to the 60s. If I want to listen to music from my grade school years and middle school, high school, I'll go to the 70s. And for example, there was a song when I got my first car, I got my license, and Supertramp came out in that time. And I would blast Take the Long Way Home. And the truth was, is at that time, I was just driving around in circles because I didn't really feel like I wanted to go home. And I didn't feel safe where I was. Where was my home where I felt safe? That was just my own experience. It wasn't anyone's fault. I'm not blaming mom or dad. But that was my reality. I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And so I would just drive and drive aimlessly, burning through gas, but I had that music on that just kind of I felt connected to. Now, in my healing journey, I go back to that music today. And how I go back to it is I hold space for Jay, that little boy, JJ, or that younger self. And I don't allow it to trip me up or bring me back to the pain, but instead I'm able to honor the pain that he felt, the sadness that he was living in, and just hold the space with him and sing and dance and move and change my relationship with that particular song or many other songs. And so I use it today as a means to elevate or lift up the spirits of that little boy within that in the past would have listened to that song and would have triggered me, got me sad. Instead, I'm able to hold him and love him and let him know, hey, we could take the long way home, but at least we have a home where we feel loved today and we feel safe. So it's a combination of both. What do you make of that, Ev? What are you hearing right now?
I just love how, listen to all your brothers, how it just touches people, in a different way individually. But, at that core essence of what it's doing, there's this beautiful connection like Jeff's talking about with community, that you're actually creating this connection with the creator of that music. What you talked about there, Jay, on that healing journey, when you're going for that drive, whether it's going for the walk out on country, whether it's, just sitting, in your own time, in your own space, that me time and being alone with music. One beautiful thing that it's always done for me is being able to help some of those emotions and feelings that I may have been blocking out with certain things within my past. Now, whether that was a breakup, whether that was a hard time that I may have been going through at the time, that music, when you feel it, like they said, Jimmy never listened to the music, he felt the music. When you feel the music at the core essence, and it really gets down to that soul part of who you are, and you allow the beat, the rhythm to come to that heart space, one thing that it really helped me, I actually was writing down with a music journal. And it's something that I would really recommend for a lot of people if you're having troubles trying to bring certain emotions and feelings to the surface. Now, we've talked about normal journaling, but also use music as this beautiful tool to allow you to feel some of those emotions and feelings that you may not have in the past. Because this is the magic from that creator of that song or that music. They have emotions and feelings that you do too. And that's the connection.
There you go. I am curious if one of you want to jump in and kind of reflect on this. Have you had a friend or a relative that has transitioned and no longer alive? And have you ever used music to connect with them on what I'll say on the other side so that you can feel their presence? Have you had that experience at all? No? How about
I never thought about that.
Yeah, right. I was kind
Man.
of just running through it in my head.
Yeah, I never thought about that. What would I could probably go back and listen to music at a time period that would remind me of that time period with that person. That's was when we're I was listening to you guys, and what Jay was saying, I was like thinking about all this music and how when I listen to it, it brings me back to some amazing times in my life. And in that respect, I could probably go back, oh wow, yeah, remember that guy, and and whatever happened to him and stuff like that. It just when I go back and listen to old stuff, I know where I was, the Jersey Shore, I was here, I was there, and I know who I was with, and all the amazing times that I have. I there are times that I listen to music and it reminds me of certain things that were very sad in my life. But the answer to your question, Jay, is that you can go back and listen to some music and reflect on maybe your relationship with that person through the music you listen to get with together.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you too. I'm going to change it up a little bit because music is so connected with also movement. I mean, it's this energy, right? Which is connected to dance. And did you guys ever have, like, growing up being a guy, like, I didn't know what to do with my arms. I didn't know what to. Were you ever like, I had this self-consciousness where I wanted to move and I wanted to dance and I wanted to be a part of the music and I wanted it to run through my body, but I didn't know how. And I felt awkward and I felt weird. And I was in some ways like jealous of the ladies who had their arms up in the air and they're having a great time. And I'm, over there kind of like trying to do my thing. And, I don't know, in my head about it. Was I the only one that had this, or?
You just said it.
All I know is
you
that
just said it.
Back in the 80s, like going down the Jersey Shore, and then even when I moved into Manhattan and I was dating this woman for 2 years, she and I went out and danced every weekend.
What'd you do with your hands?
I don't remember. We were having a blast and I was dancing. But we would go down the Jersey Shore and just dance like all weekend long to whatever was playing, and And I mean, probably back then I was drinking so much and doing so many drugs that who knows what I was doing with my hands.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
I never. Hey, have you guys ever heard Fasano disclose that on air?
Drinking
I
and
mean,
drugs.
Once or twice.
Have you been holding
Once or
back
twice.
from us, Fasano, all this time? 150
You know,
episodes?
you got to give them enough.
I was
And
gonna
then
say we gotta
and
leave
then,
some
and
surprises.
then when the doors open, you just give them some more. I'm not going to reveal my entire being in show 100 through 150 shows. You got to just give people just enough.
Okay, got it.
But what this subject's bringing a huge smile to my face because I'm remembering so many amazing, fun ass times that revolved around music. That's all it revolved around. What band are we going to go see? Going to the Jersey Shore and go to the Osprey Hotel to see Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, who was the big band before Bruce Springsteen hit it down there. You know, and this is before all of that. Yeah, man. I mean, I got a big smile on my face because
Beautiful.
like music is such a huge part of my life and still is on so many levels. And what's cool, and I'm thinking about all the periods that I went through.
Mhm.
You know, for me, I still remember watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and how I went, whoa, man. And then I went out and bought Meet the Beatles. I was 6 years old.
6?
No, 6 years
Wow.
old. I asked my mother, could we go get that record? And we went and bought the record probably for like 89 cents.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, that's how far back it goes for me.
You know what's interesting is I've embraced and infused music into my business. Meaning, when I work with clients through Zoom internationally, I typically start out the session with a song, and I usually end the session with a song. And these songs all have meaning around the healing journey. And at least they've had meaning in my own healing journey, and I share it out. And quite often, I'll get a note from one of my clients that I'm maybe working with or I've worked with, and they hear a song, and they'll just share it with me now. And I just got one today. Beautiful, beautiful song I'd never heard before. A Michael Bolton song. I'm not necessarily a Michael Bolton fan today, but the lyrics of the song were so appropriate for what this beautiful soul went through with her father today. Just an absolutely beautiful connection on such a profound level. And then listening to that song actually touched me at my own heart space as I was literally riding my bicycle this afternoon just to have a play date with myself. And I listened to it, and it just, you know, music is medicine. It's medicine for the soul. Just like food can also be, healthy food can be medicine for the soul as well. So there's many different ways to reach your soul and to connect. But tonight's episode is about music. And if you have turned down your volume or turned off your station, maybe it's time. It's time. It's a power tool. It absolutely, anytime, like I said, that I wanted to tap into an emotion that I hadn't felt or experienced in some time, it could have been days, weeks. I knew exactly what to tap into. And then I honored it. I gave myself permission to feel. Either I'm feeling into the melody or I'm feeling into the lyrics, or it's a combination of both. That's the win-win. And when we go there, man, it's like the floodgates just open up. Give yourself permission to feel those emotions, because if we're not feeling them and if we're just suppressing them, that's how we get sick, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. So music is a beautiful tool. And if you haven't tapped into it for some time, what's holding you back? What's stopping you? It's time to renew your relationship with music. For many of us, it was almost like the first date, wasn't it? That may have been your first
That's a
date.
good.
With that 6-year-old.
That's a good question. My first date. Wow.
Definitely.
You know,
celebrate the first
okay. So you
Uh-huh.
know what that reminds me of? Okay, so here's the music on my first date. I remember the group of people that I was hanging out with at the time, and I was a rock and roller, man. You know, I was into the Clash. You know, I was into the Who. I was a rock and roller, and I
Nice.
remember this one group of these girls, and they were listening to Cat Stevens,
Mm.
and they were listening to James Taylor, and they were listening to Carole King, and I was a tried and true rock and roller, and I was listening to that, and I really went, I can't listen to this, you know, and I just named 3 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, and whose music now I absolutely adore. I was listening to Cat Stevens the other day.
Mm.
Go back and listen to, you know, Peace Train and some of that stuff. I was listening to that the other day. That's the memory you just brought up. So the girl that I dated at the time was part of that. And that's all the music that they listened to. And then when I got in my car and I threw in, you know, Quadrophenia by The Who, she went, what the heck?
You know what, Jeff? You just stirred an emotion in me, which is that sometimes I'll be in the other room and Mary will be in the kitchen preparing some type of creative, healthy meal, and she'll have her music on. And the greatest joy I get is when she's got like Carole King on, and she is literally singing. And I'm not hearing a 50-something-year-old singing in that moment.
Mhm.
I'm hearing that beautiful little girl sing, and she is not here. She is literally back there in that moment. And all I hear is just pure joy and love and connection between her and Carole King. And it's one of those things that just, I get the gift because I am
Yeah.
present enough to be aware
Yep.
how it's filling her soul up in that moment. And I know it's one of the greatest joys I get in my life is when I hear her singing. Because, you know, when I met her, she was one of these, you know, women that said, oh, I don't have a good voice. I don't know how to sing. That's just the story she lived in her whole life. But when I hear her singing and I don't even have to bring attention to it, I just listen and I'm like, oh, you have a beautiful voice. It's just like you, Josh, saying, you know, when you dance, you don't know what to do with your hands. That's the old story that you lived in. Like we weren't comfortable in Sedona, where I call home today. There's something called the static dance. People do it in the sacred Red Rocks, and they get together in large groups, and they just move. It's just movement.
Mhm.
Movement brings us freedom. The freedom it brings us is the freedom from our old stories that we've been living in. That I don't know how to dance, or I don't know how to sing, or I don't know how to move. And all it's about it is about moving energy. It's moving energy.
Yep.
So I have a question to you guys and to the entire audience watching us. Tell me the last time you were in your car blasting music with the windows down and you were singing along with that music at the top of your lungs. And how many
morning.
times have you done that in your life? I mean, that brings a huge smile to my face. You know,
Go ahead, Av.
Every day, brother.
just singing it, your voice is, you know, you
Yep.
think you sound great because you hear
The music, not
music
yourself.
singing, not yourself.
Yep. I did it last week.
There's
What were you
nothing-
listening to, Josh, when you did that last week? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had Fred again going. Evis might know him, but yeah, I had a great DJ
Ooh,
going,
yeah.
and I just cranked it. Cranked it.
Mm.
Who out there hasn't sung to Bohemian Rhapsody?
Plenty.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been
Honestly, one of Pamela and our favorite thing. We're driving out to the desert day after tomorrow. But last time we were driving out to the desert, Jeff, it was windows down, like White Snake.
Oh God, White Snake.
Just jamming out at the top of our lungs. Just two kids in a car flying through the desert and just jamming old awesome stuff. And so yeah, we're gonna do that in a day and a half.
You know, I'm still friends with a couple of buddies from college, and the other night on one of those string the text where a couple of guys are involved, somebody brought up Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole conversation for the next like hour was, where were we and what were we doing listening to Dark Side of the Moon? And the audience can fill in the blanks about what they were doing. But the entire hour, and we were just going back and forth, texting about, you know, how many bombs we did,
awesome.
what we were doing, and listening to the album straight through, and where were we? And everybody was just chiming in because we were all in that, all the guys on that thread, we were all in that room that night. It was hilarious. And it was wonderful because it brought back these fantastic memories, and how much that album, you know, and everybody knows what Pink Floyd's about, how that record from beginning to end, because back in the day it was all those big, you know, theme records like Pink Floyd, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Yes, and, you know, even The Who with Tommy and Quadrophenia. You'd listen to the album straight through because it had a through line from song one to the end.
right?
And it was fun. It just brought back these wonderful memories of being friggin' 19 years old again.
We have one of our viewers and listeners coming in from Sedona. He's challenging us here a little bit. He says, Pink Floyd, if you remember what you were doing, you didn't live it, man.
I love it.
Sorry, Richard. By the way, Richard, my question to you, Richard, is, have you ever seen Pink Floyd? Answer that, because I have in 1977.
How'd that change your life?
Oh, well, okay, so I'll reveal another part. So we come with a bunch of buddies
I like this tell-all.
in Madison Square Garden, and all we did driving up there, I can't, these are, you know, there's a part of me that can't believe that I'm still alive, to be honest with you. We're driving up, and you know, we're smoking all the way there, and we walk into Madison Square Garden, and we got there, and we had to hustle because I think the show started at 8 o'clock or whatever, and we got in and we walked in, and the lights just went down. And this was, if you got people remember, Pink Floyd put out a record, the Animals record. So we walk in and we are flying high. We're high as kites. And we walk in and we all look up, and there's a pig, huge pig flying around Madison Square Garden. And we just looked up and we went, whoa. And we got to our seats, and it was just this, it was like this one huge hallucination for like 2 hours until the lights went, you know, they did an intermission, and we kind of like, oh my God. But just think of that, walking in, hearing the music. If you folks remember how the album, so they played the album straight through. So they started with the song Pigs. And then there's pigs flying around. And we're walking in and we're going, oh my God. And we sat down in our seats and we just looked up, and then it just took us away. So Richard, I've listened to Pink Floyd many, many times, doing many, many pharmaceuticals. And there's my remembrance of one of the most amazing times of my life.
Here's your answer. Here's your answer, Jeff.
Yeah.
Richard says, yes, Jeff. No, I have not seen them live. You lucky dude. My first concert was Doobie Brothers. Wow, I forgot about the Doobie Brothers with Tower of Power as their backup.
That's a
Blew
great
me
show. That's a
and my
great
buds
man.
show.
up.
Wow.
Wow.
Ev, you've been such a good listener for the last segment of the show here. What are you making of this love fest with music tonight?
It's what it's all about, isn't it?
Isn't
Being
it?
a listener.
No, but isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, but feel the energy, and isn't this what music's
It's
all about?
live. Yeah.
Memories,
Yep.
joy, just
Stories, connection,
stories,
community.
community, and then how it makes us feel. Go ahead, Ev. I'm sorry.
No, but you're 100% all over it, my brother. You know, like it brings this vibration, and we're literally feeling it between the four of us and our brothers and sisters out there. I'm here on across the other side of the pond. That's what music does and can do for you, my brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
It travels in time, man. So it is literally a portal. It allows you to jump time jump. So we have these opportunities to reflect, remember, and even go back to some of those times that got us on those high vibrations and some of those down low vibrations. You know, one thing I'm going to share, and you guys definitely wouldn't have known this about me, but in the early 2000s, man, I was a part of a boy band.
Oh,
Oh my God. Evis, does video exist of this?
It may.
Let's
The
go
old
to the
school
clip.
Please tell
Let's
me
go to
there's
the clip.
video.
The old school VHS, brother. It may.
man, there you go.
Whoa. I would pay good
So-
money to find that.
Yeah, brother.
How
we
many?
actually
How
had
many of you were in that
performances local. We had 4 of us, and we ended up having a female singer that came along as well.
Oh wow.
But this was really in the R&B scene, you know, early
And
2000s, late 90s. And the name of the group, I think you're going to ask, my brother, was called Koto. We spelled it with a K, and it stood for Class of Their Own.
Mm.
Oh.
So I was a part of that, and we just happened to be, you know, performing in local areas around here. We'd done a couple of fairs, we'd done a couple of nightclubs, and you know, for me at that stage within my life, it was literally a ride. I wasn't even thinking about what I was doing. I was just in the moment and in the present, and we had a really talented muso that was connecting the dots for all of us. We'd come in with the lyrics. We'd be able to obviously sing back then a few lines, and then you know, we performed for the people that were turning up for the you know, stage, or for the concert, if you want to call it that.
So you were the warm up.
We were like a warm up, my brother.
So you got them hot.
It was hot, but that part of my life, like I'm saying, brother, before you go in, you know, it was telling a big story about me. You know, I was still trying to search my way through, you know, going back 20 years ago. And when music came along there, it allowed me to not only start living that story within my life through that music and express, you know, where I currently was through the lyrics I was writing, but with every story comes a song. With every song comes a dance. My thing for you, my brothers and sisters, is just learning and starting to know what sound makes you dance. And for me, that was the key, because that sound at the time that we were producing, man, there was never a dull moment. The hands, brother, they were either doing that or they were either doing that. And that's the magic of music, my friends. It moves you.
Yep.
Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
beaming with so many questions right now. Evis, all right.
So we've had
Were
two
you
matches.
a singer or a dancer or both?
All you both.
Oh
Wow.
my
Yeah,
God. I
man.
love this.
I'd try and find some footage, brothers.
Josh,
Oh, man.
Josh, what's going on tonight, man? We have Jeff dropping a a truth, a little bit that he hasn't dropped before. Now we have Evis dropping. Is there anything you want to disclose tonight? Oh, you want to save it for the next show?
Mhm.
Let's save it for the next.
I think I'll share all my drug stories for the addiction episode.
Yeah.
But no, my favorite, my best concert I ever went to was Red Rocks in Colorado, which is the most incredible outdoor venue ever. And I was lucky enough to live in Denver and catch multiple concerts out there. But I wasn't a big Grateful Dead fan at the time, but a good friend of mine was a huge Dead fan. And Jerry had already passed, but it was the Grateful Dead at Red Rocks with Stevie Nicks guest singing.
Wow.
And that was, I'm a huge Fleetwood fan.
Yeah.
And just Stevie with the Dead was and yes, we were high as a kite that night too, Jeff. But it was phenomenal. I mean, just
Joan Osborne, when Jerry died, Joan Osborne toured and sang with them as well. Here's the thing about music. I was in Providence, Rhode Island in a summer, turned on the radio, and that's where I heard that Jerry Garcia passed away. I'll never forget that. I wasn't a big Dead fan, but you know, they're icons. And I remember hearing that going, wow. You know, wow, Jerry Garcia just passed away. I was in the summer. I was doing a minor league baseball tour. I was taking pictures of minor league baseball games. And I was in Providence, Rhode Island. And I heard that Jerry died. I remember that.
Is that time?
Yeah.
So I want to bring us into a moment of reality is how we can also use music for those that may no longer be in our life today. Meaning, they may have transitioned, or it may just be a relationship that has been a season of sorts. Anytime, for example, that I want to connect, let's say, with my own father who transitioned, coming up on 8 years now. I know what kind of music to put on. And I get out of my head and I get into my heart. You know, I'll be out in the wilderness by myself. And I want to feel connected to my father. I know exactly what music to put on. And the intention isn't to bring me into this space of the inner child that's just missing my daddy or you know, going into despair or depression around it, because that's one of the challenges we have, at least in our society we live in, is how to grieve a loss in a healthy way. Maybe we need to do another show on that. But for me, it's not about using music to grieve what feels like a loss for many people. It's to connect. It's not to feel a loss, but to connect with my father and learning how to develop. I've learned how to develop a relationship with people that aren't in my life anymore. And it doesn't mean that they've transitioned. I've got people from my childhood. If I want to listen to a song from the time when I was, let's say, in my first relationship, I know what music to put on. So it's such a beautiful tool that can be used not to suppress us or depress us, but to actually light us up and connect us with the emotions that perhaps we've been waiting a long time to feel. And it's a gift. And it's a gift not only for, let's say for me, it's a gift for my relationship with my own dad. It doesn't ever make me sad. It brings me joy. You know, I'd say if there's anything that I'm sad about is that I wasn't awakened. I'm not the man I am today when my father was alive. And that's the one thing, you know, if I wish I could have those conversations with him being here, that would be beautiful. But because he's not, doesn't mean that the relationship is over. It's renewed. It's beautiful today. And and the pain is gone and the anger is gone and all that stuff is gone. Now I just get to be able to connect and honor through music my relationship with my father that at times I didn't feel connected to him. Today I use music as a gateway, and it's a beautiful tool. So, what do you make of that, Josh Richard?
Love that, Jay. Love that. And thank you for sharing from the heart. Feeling you in this moment.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. So as we, believe it or not, 5 minutes coming up on the hour, who wants to close us out tonight with some words of wisdom?
Jeff, I was going to say, Jeff, man, I feel like out of the four of us, you have the most intimate relationship with music over the years. And you beautifully weaved it into you took your two passions, which was your absolute love of music and your love of photography, and you found a way to blend them both into you built your dream job and life around music.
It's because it brings me the greatest amount of joy. One of the things, the two questions to ask to find your passion is, what brings you the greatest amount of joy, and what do you do that brings the greatest amount of joy? Music brings me the greatest amount of joy, and what I do is take pictures. So I wanted to combine the two, and I did. And then it just opened up many, many different avenues of it. But, God, just being able to, take photos, live shots, like be in the pit at a show. And I still remember Bonnaroo a bunch of years ago, and I never got to see the Chili Peppers. And they were a bucket list show, and I got to see them. And I was literally standing with two world-renowned photographers shooting the Chili Peppers because the three of us had never seen them. And I just remember that memory. But yeah, I guess, it's, you follow that path of what brings you joy. And then I just combined what I do that brings me so much joy, but you're in it. It's while you're doing it, while I'm doing it. And as I've been doing it for all of these years, man, I've gotten to meet and talk to and find out about a lot of these artists who I listened to when I was growing up, and got to meet them and talk to them about their music and what were you doing. 2 weeks ago, I think I might have said this on the show last week or in our production meeting, I was with Yorma Kalkinen and Jack Cassidy. Yorma was the lead guitar player, and Jack was the bass player for Jefferson Airplane. One of the first songs I've ever heard in my life that moved me was White Rabbit. And here I am sitting with the two guys who were played on that record, who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then I got to ask them about what was it like hanging out with Janis Joplin. And then Yorma and Jack they were all good friends because they all lived in San Francisco. So I pinched myself that night saying, wow, man, these two dudes were playing on White Rabbit. And that is one of the first songs that touched me so deeply on so many levels. And I got to meet the two dudes in that band.
Could you imagine that, guys? I mean, it's gotta be surreal to have those experiences, because it's not the only one you've had. But I want to thank you for sharing it, Jeff. Before we close this out tonight, I'm just feeling inspired to share another short clip from last week's episode. So just enjoy this moment here with Evis.
Time that you truly outleaped fear to create change. That is the true essence of the spiritual journey. But when we are able to overleap out that fear, we actually lean more into faith that you know and you trust that the universe has your back when you take that leap. So when we're able to take that leap within our lives, we actually create that safe space. And no matter how old we are within our lives, We feel like we can play again as the inner child. And so for many of us, we close off to these infinite possibilities, to these opportunities. You know, they say show up early, leave late. For me, I don't care what age you are, just show up. It's never too late.
Never too late, brothers. Never too late.
Never too late.
Any of you guys get chills in that moment? I got chills.
Beautiful, Ev.
Yeah, and I just want to share something too, because you touched on an important thing too, Jay, around music and connection on the other side as well. You know, you all know that my name is literally derived from the King, Elvis Presley. And, you know, I just want to pay, you know, that sort of honor and respect, because my nan, she always listened to Elvis. And when I got my name, I didn't have a name for a good month. But the way that Elvis's dad pronounced his name was with a Southern drawl accent. So it sounded like Elvis. And my dad picked up on that. And so he just dropped the L of Elvis, and I became Evis. So music has been, it's pretty crazy. So music has been a literal big part of my life. And, you know, to really share what we've shared tonight, my brothers and sisters, you know, whether you're using music as a tool, whether you're just using it to play, using it to empower you, to motivate, inspire you, you know, just be in the flow of music. I watched a show about a year ago, and I'll drop it down in the comments. I want you to try and watch this show, my brothers and sisters, if you get a chance. And it just tapped in now while we're talking about this, and it's called Frequencies. Frequencies was done in 2014, and just to give a quick short story, it's basically of a young little boy and a young little girl, and each of them represents a high frequency. One of them represents a low frequency. And throughout all these experiments, as they go through their life, they can't connect, but they do connect. And they do connect because they're the polar opposites of the high and the lows. Those high and lows represent our emotions, those feelings within our lives. And it's funny, I don't want to give too much away, but there's really an important part at the end of that show, and I can't believe it's just dropped for me now. And there's something that's trying to be worked out in regards to their emotions. One's high, one's low, and how they keep causing this chaos with nature when they come together. And there's a guy in the background, and he's playing his piano at the end. And you can just hear everything else going on berserk in the background. And someone says to him, you know, what is it? What is it that is the reset? He said, it's the music. He said, but what is it resetting? He says, it's resetting your soul. So music is literally a channel. It is literally a communication that connects us on a deeper level. So get a chance to watch that, but I'll just finish it on this too, because it was a poem that I wrote, and I won't try and rap it, but it was something that I did going back on those days. And I used to say, I listen to music with my eardrum. I dance to it, heel and toe. I sing with it with my voice box. I feel it with the heart below. And on that
Now I
note,
want to hear you rap it.
with the J. Rudy beat.
Wow.
We're
It's
the
beautiful, Ev.
instrument. We're the instrument, brothers and sisters.
And on that note, I want to take a moment here just to thank you, my three brothers, from a different mother, no doubt. But I love you guys. It's, you know, it's interesting. We've been together now we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. And my love continues to just grow and mature I I can't say that at any given time I've ever been angry at any one of you. How many people can say that in relationships? You guys do make it easy. And I want to thank our viewers for showing up tonight, joining us on our 150th episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it out with your friends and family. They can subscribe to us on YouTube. And with that, my closing thoughts or words are just turn on a song, turn it up and move and dance and let it bring you home to the part of yourself that perhaps you've been disconnected from since when you were a child. Reconnect with that little boy, reconnect with that little girl at the soulful level. And with that, I love you all. Have a beautiful weekend. We'll catch you next time on Real Men, Real Talk, live.